Hey guys, welcome to another video, and in this one we are going to be doing some Assassin's Creed speculation for the future. Now, for a slight disclaimer, Assassin's Creed Syndicate has not been released yet, and I am not being influenced by that game in the slightest way possible, and this is all my thoughts and speculation and etc. So let's get started. So, let's begin with the setting. I've seen a lot of people talking about the setting, like, I want to see the Second World War, I want to see the First World War, I want to see ancient Egypt, I want to see Rome before Rome was Rome and the Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. I've seen a lot of things like that, and basically, I don't know which one to think about. But knowing Ubisoft, they're probably going to keep coming forward in time, so we're likely to be seeing the Wild West or the Second World War or the First World War. Now let's cancel out the Second World War, as Ubisoft said Assassin's Creed never meets that criteria, but the First World War and the Wild West have not been cancelled out yet as far as we're aware, so Ubisoft could do that, but I wouldn't recommend it if Ubisoft are watching this, because it's coming forward in time and time's getting more advanced, and it's getting less believable that they're having such a badass assassin do what they're doing without being like outed as some form of lone wolf vigilante and being hunted down by every single person out there, being known, wanted by everyone, and you know, etc. Alongside loads of other things that make it less and less believable. So I suppose Ubisoft would have to go back in the future of Assassin's Creed instead of go forward, so that they can keep this believable assassin in this believable world where apparently hoods are no longer believable, but a rope launcher is. Personally, I wouldn't mind seeing how they'd execute a First World War setting, but I would much rather they went back to, say, 15th, 16th century, like around the time that Ezio was around, just in a different place entirely with a different assassin, with an unrelated story. Maybe the odd reference here and there, and I'd like to see how they do that with the next-gen graphics and etc., which would make, I don't know, make the game more believable as an assassin who can kill people and escape and nobody ever sees him again in that area, etc. That's the sort of thing that I want, but I wouldn't mind a First World War setting or a Texas setting, believe it or not. I want to see Texas as cowboy, please. There is not much else to say about that, so let's move on to the protagonist. As of recent years, the protagonists in Assassin's Creed have been protagonists without the pro, they have been agonists, which means that they're just so painful to play as that it causes physical agony. That's what people would have you think, but no. Is that true? I said no before, it's not true. The characters have always been mediocre at worst in Assassin's Creed, so they're going on the right rail here, but they could be better in a lot of ways, especially Connor and Arno. I mean, they weren't awful characters, but they weren't as good as Ezio or Edward, and maybe Altair as well, for nostalgic value. But this means nothing, because Ubisoft are going to ignore this. And it seems as if they keep going where they're going with like Jacob and Evie Fry, then the protagonist should be fine. Because if it's anything like those two, then it looks like they're going to be okay. If they're anything like Edward, which Jacob seems to be like a spitting image of Edward just in London, then, you know, I think we're going to be fine with protagonists for the future. This stuff aside, let's talk about the story. Now, the story needs to be interesting, which it hasn't been interesting enough recently. Black Flags was probably the closest it got to mildly interesting. Threes was decent, and Unity's was decent as well. But Black Flags was better because the character progression in that was just, it was intense, and it was really great. I don't believe intense is the right word to describe it. I'd say it was more, it was amazing, because Edward came a long way from the start to the finish, and that's the sort of thing that needs to be done more in Assassin's Creed. They need to tackle their stories with more like care, like they did in Assassin's Creed 2. They just need to bring Darby back. Just bring Darby McDevitt back, and then life will be okay. Now, my final point is going to be about the gameplay. Now, Ubisoft, if you're watching this, please listen to this. Stop faffing about with the engines. You've gone through 3 since the franchise has started, all of which haven't started off as great as you would have hoped, and that means that if you start with a new engine, that game is going to instantly be crap, like Assassin's Creed 3, Unity, and arguably 1 as well, though I would argue against that for nostalgic values and other values as well, that it wasn't glitchy. But you've done your messing around with engines, you found a decent engine. If you can execute it correctly, the engine will be great. But here's my main beef. It's going to be glitchy because you're Ubisoft and you can't code for crap. So, how can we resolve this? Fire Ubisoft. No. We need to stick to the same engine, Ubisoft. Stick to the engine you've used in Unity and Syndicate. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm going to, because that is the only way forward, or revert back to the engine used for Black Flag and 3, because that engine was also very good. But there's not much else to say about the engine. But anyway guys, thanks for watching this video, hope you enjoyed. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, comment, subscribe, because we're going for 2,000 subscribers before the end of 2016 and I cannot do it without your help. Be sure to share this with your friends as well, to comment down below what you think, what should be in the future Assassin's Creed games, and also, yeah, just do all that stuff. So thanks for watching guys, see ya!